Hello everybody, Clint Seeley here with Unique Scuba, coming to you today with another episode of Driving Down the Road with Clint. Today we're headed to beautiful Lake Denton, and I got about an hour's drive, and I'm going to see my buddy Ford Turner at Under Pressure Sports first. Ford is great because he supports independent instructors. His dive shop really supports the community of scuba. So I highly encourage any of you to do business with Under Pressure Sports in Sebring, Florida. So this episode today is not sponsored by them or anybody, but if you ever want to sponsor one of my episodes, all you have to do is send me a Waffle House gift card in the mail, and you can buy my endorsement as easy as that. Anyway, let's get started with the episode. Considering the last 15 minutes I've been driving, trying to consider what I should talk about today, and I know I can be long-winded sometimes. So what I want to try to do is condense this episode down to just bullet points and just straight up advice. I get a lot of questions. I get a lot of personal messages through my Facebook. I get sent a lot of links from new divers. Hey Clint, what should I buy? Or I'm looking at this, or I'm looking at that. Is this a good deal? Is that a good piece of equipment? What you have to understand when you're doing that, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying there's anything bad about trying to get yourself a good deal, or shopping on the internet, or doing research on the internet. If any instructor or dive shop tells you to stay away from the internet and it's all junk on the internet, well, they're just trying to get you to buy from them. I don't agree with that tactic, because we all know they buy stuff on Amazon, and they do plenty of research of their own on the internet. And, part of that is they're trying to protect you a little bit from getting junk on the internet, because getting a good deal on junk is not a good deal at all. And one of the things that I really find that seems to be normalized and really quite acceptable in this journey of scuba that you're on, when you become an open water diver and then you take some advanced classes, you get some experience under your belt, and you start going up that leadership ladder, you end up buying a second set of equipment almost every single time. Within a year or 2 years after you start diving and buy your first set of equipment, you start replacing each one of those components, because you realized you didn't get the best set of equipment, you didn't make the best purchasing decision, and that's not your fault. You didn't have guidance. And it just it's really quite acceptable in this industry, or just commonplace. Yeah, you're going to end up buying a second set of equipment. My question is why? Why not just do it right the first time? And that's not on you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. If you're shopping the internet, Amazon, Leisure Pro, Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace is a great resource to go to really do some searching to figure out what's not right for you. Because if it's not right for everybody else, and that's the lion's share of what you're running into on Facebook Marketplace, chances are it's not right for you. So here's the thing. When you get on your keyboard, Facebook Marketplace, you set your filters, and you type in scuba equipment, and on that whole list of goodies, it's like a smorgasbord of dive equipment. You just got to remember, half of those, it's like a minefield. Half of those are bombs. All right, and if somebody is like, yeah, I bought this a year ago and paid $2,000 for it, and but I don't dive, and you can have it for $500. Alarm should be going on. Something ain't right there, right? Or what they ended up doing was paying a lot of money for junk, because if they're selling it, they're going to sell it to you so they can start buying their second set of equipment. They can start getting the right equipment. So as you go through those search results on the Facebook Marketplace, if you see a lot of the same types of equipment on Facebook Marketplace, there should be a bell going off in your head. That's probably not the type of equipment I want to buy, because I'm going to end up listing it back on Facebook Marketplace within a year, so I can start buying my second set of equipment and getting all of the right stuff. Because once you start landing on dive boats or going out to the lake, you start diving, you start seeing other divers in different types of equipment, and then you're like, oh, I didn't even know that existed, or oh yeah, that would be much. So then you're like, all right, so I know I'm going to have to spend a little bit more money, but then I'm going to get really good stuff that's right for my needs. I better put this stuff on Facebook Marketplace so I can do that. And then the next schmuck in line who's typing on Facebook Marketplace will end up probably buying the equipment from you. So that's how it ends up. $2,000 of equipment that's like new ends up being peddled on Facebook Marketplace for $400 or $500, right? So get on Facebook Marketplace, type in Jacket BC or BCD, and look at all of the types of BCs that come up in your search results. If a lot of them look the same, in my opinion, that's an indication that's probably not going to be good for me either, right? Probably a Jacket BC, probably a very basic one, and none of those are going to fit you like a glove. Now, the type of BC, and I'm not going to do name brands or anything, but the style of BCD, buoyancy compensating device, that we wear, or that I teach in, after 20 plus years of teaching pretty much nonstop, no breaks. What we have eventually, over time, evolved into are wing and backplate systems. It's a modular system, so it has a wing on the back. It has either a stainless steel or an aluminum backplate, metal backplate, that then connects the wing to a harness. You can have a single continuous piece of webbing, or you can get some of these new really cool adjustable harnesses with releases. But it also has a crotch strap. So that's a wing and backplate system. So then you get yourself on Facebook Marketplace and do a search for wing and backplate system. And you're not going to see a lot of search. You're going to see a few, but you can be like, well, they're not discounting those that much. Or why is there not such a big discrepancy in price? Well, that's because, first of all, it's a really solid BCD. And once somebody grows into, or they get to the level of experience where they invest in a wing and backplate system, that's their second set of equipment, and it doesn't go back on Facebook Marketplace. The Jacket BC goes on Facebook Marketplace. Once you get to your second set of equipment, well, you hold on to that. You go diving with that. There's no reason to sell it because you finally figured it out. So you're going to see dramatically fewer wing and backplate systems on Facebook Marketplace. That's the really good way to figure out the pulse of the industry, or the scuba community that have experience, right? The stuff they're trying to get rid of, first of all, and the stuff they're not putting up for sale. So you do a search for your wing and backplate system. You don't see quite as many of them. They seem to hold their value a lot better. It's pretty curious, don't you think? That's very interesting that you don't find those on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or Craigslist, and when you do, they're still a little bit pricey. That might be an indication that you're on the right track. So I suggest, if you can find a good wing and backplate system used and get a good deal on it, do it. Or go down to your dive shop and ask them or call them and ask them if they carry wing and backplate systems that can be custom fitted to your body. Here's the truth about them. Jacket BCs come in sizes extra small to double, triple, extra large. So there's a bunch of sizes of Jacket BCs, and none of them are going to fit you like a glove. They're going to move around on you, all right? None of them are going to fit like a glove, and I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying that they're unsafe. I'm just saying that once people get experience under their belt, and they see what else is out there in the scuba world, in our universe, they start talking themselves into and justifying spending a little bit more money on a system they can really dial in. So you call your instructor, your dive shop, hey, do you guys carry wean and backplate systems? Can you custom fit it exactly to my body? I think I want to get prices on that. That's my advice as far as BCDs go. Now, regulators, that is your life support system. Now, you get on Facebook Marketplace and you see a lot of reputable brands on there. Yeah, you can get, like, you find a used Scuba Pro or a used Apex or even, used Mares, any of the leading name brands. If you're getting a deal on it, that's great. But here's what you have to factor into you have to consider. Look at the numbers and what it's ultimately going to cost you. Yes? So first off, I don't care what the person selling that regulator to you says. You immediately have to get it serviced by a qualified technician. So you're looking at $150. So you're going to spend another $150 completely getting it serviced. So tack that on. Now, has that come closer to the price that you can get it from your shop or instructor or whatever? You got to figure that into the equation. The last thing you should ever do is go buy a used regulator and then go diving with it. That is insane. That's just insanity. Don't do it. Is there a gauge console that has a computer in it? Are you getting a deal on that? Well, here's what you need to consider. Because this is 50-50. That computer might not work, or it's going to conk. You just have to assume it's going to conk out on you at any given moment, and then you're going to have to replace that computer. Okay? I wouldn't buy a used computer. That's just something I wouldn't do. There are some things that you can get deals on used computers. I've just had too many experiences and known too many people that bought computers that just went out. So you have to factor that into the equation as well. All right? That the computer's probably going to have to be replaced, and the regulator is going to have to be overhauled. Now, what about tanks? A lot of people buy tanks on Facebook Marketplace or used tanks. You can find deals on tanks, aluminum tanks. Okay, so if you want an aluminum 80 or even a 63 or a 50, sometimes those come through Facebook Marketplace regularly. If a tank doesn't have air in it, doesn't have gas in it, there's no air pressure in it, you need to basically be able to get that tank dirt cheap to even be worth taking the risk of getting it hydroed and VIP'd. All right, any tank that you get, you're probably going to have to get hydroed and VIP'd first. So you have to factor that into the equation. You have to dial that number in and see if you're actually getting a deal. Most dive shops sell tanks like an aluminum 80 for about $150, $175. And you might not be able to haggle them down on price because they don't make, trust me, nobody's putting their kids through college at a dive shop because they're selling aluminum 80s. You might not be able to talk them down on price. There's not a lot of wiggle room there. What dive shops, what many times you can talk them into are some free air fills. Look, if I buy this tank from you, it comes with the hydro, comes with the VIP. Will you throw in some air fills? Will you throw in 10 air fills? Then you've created a situation for the dive shop where you're going to be able to purchase something from them, give them some business. You're paying a little bit more, but then by them increasing value to that chain, they've closed that gap and actually given you more value by throwing in some free air fills, because you're going to need air fills anyway, right? So that's my advice on tanks. I wouldn't buy, personally, unless it's somebody I know, I wouldn't buy a steel tank on Facebook Marketplace. That's just me. Steel tanks come through all the time. For me, if you're to the point in your dive career or in this thing where you're looking at purchasing steel tanks, you're either going to buy them from somebody, a buddy that you know or instructor who has extra steel tanks, or you're going to need to go out and buy yourself some brand new steel tanks. Because if you're going down that road, you've already been spending some money, right? So on tanks, yeah, that's what I have to say about tanks. Fins all day long. If you know exactly what types of fins you want, you can get fins, good fins, dirt cheap on Facebook Marketplace. Absolutely go for it. Same thing for boots. Dive boots, they hold no value at all online. You can save money. Snorkel, who needs a snorkel? But if you need a snorkel, buy a snorkel. A mask, I probably wouldn't buy a mask on Facebook Marketplace because even good masks are not right for most people. You have to try masks on. You have to fit that mask, try it on. Most people end up with 3 or 4 of their own masks. But yeah, fins, boots, wetsuits hold no value on Facebook Marketplace. You can get them dirt cheap as long as you can live with the fact that the person you bought it from peed in it 100 times and some of that is still living inside the neoprene and you're cool with that. Hey, knock yourself out. There's no more personal piece of equipment than a wetsuit, in my opinion. So hey, knock yourself out. What else? I mean, that's pretty much it, right? We have boots, fins, wetsuit, regulator, BCD, mask, and then, the accessories, other things like that in the computer. So, no on the computer. No use computer. No use steel tanks. But really, your best bet is striking up a deal with whoever you took classes from. So your instructor can point you in the right direction, hopefully. Look at what your instructor's wearing. Chances are it would be good to dive in something similar. Probably not the stuff you learned in, because that's usually not the best equipment. That's the stuff that ends up on Facebook Marketplace for the rest of the schmucks to buy. Well, look at how much money I saved. Not really. So hopefully this was helpful. This was another episode of Driving with Clint in the books. Have a good one.